Hi everybody, welcome back. I have some stories about construction and demolition today. Do you know what demolition is? Demolition is when you knock something down like a building. So construction is when you build it up and demolition is when you knock it down. So the first thing we're going to do is actually knock it down. We're going to do the demolition story first. And this is called Bam, Bam, Bam. Demolition is very loud. I wonder if you've ever seen any construction or demolition. Sometimes when you walk by the street, you might see that. There's one of the construction workers and one of his dump trucks, I think, and other things that they might use when they go to their work site. Bam, bam, bam. The man is putting up a sign that says demolition, because you might not want to walk by there. If you don't like loud sounds, you might want to cross the street. So he's letting everybody know. Pickaxes, swinging today, plaster clouds flying every which way. Do you see that tool they're holding? That is called a pickaxe, and that's part of the tools that they're going to need for their demolition. Workmen are covered with white dust like snow. Oh, come see the great demolition show. Do you see what they're doing? They're peeking in little holes in the fence so they can watch the people demolishing the building. That's what they're doing. And these children don't mind the noise. They wanted to watch because it was like a show. So they came over to the fence and looked in the hole and saw the workers using their pickaxes, breaking up the concrete. Slam, slam, slam goes the steel wrecking ball. I bet that was a loud sound. Bam, 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 against an orange stone wall. Look at what's happening. That ball is knocking it down right to the ground. It's raining bricks and wood in this neighborhood. The wood and the bricks are falling all over the place. Down go the houses, down go the stores. Oh my, they knocked a lot of things down. Up goes a building with 47 floors. Wow, they're going to build a new building that's very, very tall. It has 47 floors. Crash goes a chimney. Pow goes a hall. I see that wrecking ball is still knocking things over. And look, that worker has something called a jackhammer, and it's electric. And when you put it down, it goes to break up the concrete. And there's the crane with the big wrecking ball. Zowie goes a doorway. Zam goes a wall. Now he's using his big mallet that's like a hammer, knocking into that wall to knock it down and knock down that doorway. Slam, slam, slam goes the steel wrecking ball. But look, the man is looking at his watch. I think it's time for them to be done for the day. Oh, everybody stop now, work's done. Bam, 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 changing it all. Look, there's the new building that they built that has 47 floors. And that's the end of the demolition book. I have another book about construction, and this one has our good old monkey friend. Do you remember our monkey friend that's so curious? He gets into trouble a lot. His name is Curious George, and Curious George is going to be very curious about a dump truck. I like dump trucks. You can put things in it, and then when you tip that part of the truck right there, whatever's in comes out. So let's see what is in this dump truck. This is George. He lived with his friend, the man with the yellow hat. He was a good little monkey, but he was always very curious. This morning, George was playing with his toys when he heard a funny sound outside of his window. I wonder what sound he heard, don't you? It sounded like quack. George was curious. What could be quacking underneath his window? Well, it was a duck, of course. And then George heard another quack. Quack, quack. And then another quack, quack, quack. Oh my. Why? it wasn't just one duck, it was a mother duck and her 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little ducklings all walking by. How funny they were. George watched the ducklings waddle with their mother. Where were they going? George was curious. Soon he was waddling after Mother Duck and the 5 little babies. He wanted to see where they were going. Now he could see where they were going. Wonder where they're going. Look, there was a boy on a bicycle that stopped riding so he could watch them go by. The ducks waddled all the way to the park. George loved the park. Today he saw children flying kites and gardeners planting trees by the pond. Then George saw something that he had never seen before. I think it's this yellow truck. Do you think that's the dump truck we were talking about? I bet it is. It was a dump truck, and it was big. In fact, George was not even as tall as one tire. George forgot all about the ducks and the ducklings, and he looked at that dump truck. It would be so much fun to sit in that big truck, thought George. No one was inside the truck, and the window was open, so George couldn't help himself. He climbed right in. Uh-oh, is he going to get into trouble? I think so. By sitting in the big truck, it wasn't quite as much fun as he thought it was going to be. He was too small. There was really nothing much to climb on. What could he step on to make himself taller so he could see out that window? Well, how about that little knob right there? He stepped on it. Now George could see everything. He saw grass and trees and a family eating a picnic. Suddenly George heard a low rumbling sound. Was that his tummy rumbling? But then he realized the rumbling was not coming from his tummy. Something was happening from where his feet landed on that lever. What do you think it was? It was coming from the back of the truck. George was curious. He climbed out the window and then, only like a monkey could, he swung up to the top of the truck. Now he could take a better look. He saw that the truck was filled with dirt. George was excited. What could be better than a truck filled with dirt? George jumped right into the middle of it, sitting on top of the dirt. George felt the truck bed begin to tilt. That's what dump trucks do, right? They dump. I think when he stepped on that lever, it made that dump truck start to dump its load of dirt. Uh-oh. It tilted higher and higher. The dirt began to slide. It was sliding right into the pond, and George slid along with it. George actually thought it was fun. But the big pile of dirt went into the pond, and the pile got bigger and bigger. Soon his fun was gone because he realized he might be in a little bit of trouble. Just then the gardeners came back from lunch, and they stood with their mouths wide open. They saw the empty dump truck and the large pile of dirt in the pond, and they saw a very muddy monkey. They knew just what had happened. But before they could say a word, George heard a familiar sound. Quack, 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 quack. What was that? Was that the duck family? He heard more quacking. Quack, 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 quack. Then he heard people laughing. Look, said a girl, the ducks have their own island. Indeed they did. The pile of dirt made an island for the little ducks, and Mother Duck and her ducklings waddled right on top, as happy as can be. George was sorry he'd made such a mess, but the gardeners didn't seem to mind. We were planting more trees and flowers to make the park nicer for people, they said. But now you've made the park nicer for ducks. Later, a small crowd gathered at the pond. Would you like to help me feed the ducks? Asked a girl. Oh, yes, said George, and he happily fed his new friends. the ducks. And the ducks and George lived happily ever after. So he got into mischief, but it was okay because he made an island of dirt for the ducks so that they could go on their island and then go in the water and then go back on their island and they would be safe. That was really nice what he did. I have one more story. We had a story about demolition, and we had a story about a construction truck, a dump truck, and now we are going to have a story about construction, about something that someone is going to build with tools. And that someone is Mr. Bear. Mr. Bear's chair. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Bear woke up in the morning. Breakfast is ready, called Mr. Bear. Mr. Bear loved to make pancakes, and Mrs. Bear loved to eat them. Looked like a good day for breakfast. Look at their kitty cats eating breakfast under the table, too. They're having a happy day so far. But when Mrs. Bear sat down, crash! Her chair broke, and she fell to the ground. Poor Mrs. Bear. Mrs. Bear's bottom hurt. Just you wait, said Mr. Bear. I am going to have a surprise for you by dinner time. I wonder what the surprise will be. Mr. Bear headed to an old hickory tree. He's going to a tree with his tools. He knew exactly what to do. He swung his axe really hard, and he chopped down the tree. Wonder what he's going to do with all that wood. He sawed the tree trunk into just the right lengths, and he split the lengths to just the right thickness. He knows what he's doing, it looks like. And then he shaved them with his special tool, and he planed them, and he made it very smooth, and then he drilled holes in them, and then he chiseled them. He used his tool to make that little notch in the wood. Looks like he's building something. Then he counted and he thought, because when you build something, you need a plan, and Mr. Bear had the plan. He knew by the sound when the parts fit just right with his mallet. There's a mallet, just like there was in our other story, kind of like a hammer. And all the pieces fit just right. Then he pounded some bark to make it soft, and he stripped it off the log, and he peeled it back to get something called cane, and he was going to make the seat with that cane. Mr. Bear must have made chairs before. He really knows what to do. Mr. Bear carefully wove the cane under and over, and under and over, and under and over, until he created the seat for his chair. He hoped that Mrs. Bear would like his new chair, and he carried it back to his house. And Mrs. Bear loved her new chair. She gave him a kiss. Mrs. Bear put supper on the table. Turkey, said Mr. Bear, my favorite. And just as he sat down, you're not going to believe what happened. Crash! Now Mr. Bear's chair broke. Oh no, he didn't even get to eat his turkey dinner. Because look what he had to do. Take his tool chest and go back to get another hickory tree to make another chair, this time for himself. He's had a very, very busy day. And I hope you have had a busy day. And it's good time to rest now. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.